So yeah, hi, I'm Tom Krazit. I'm the news editor at GigaOM. We're going to be talking about mobile apps for the next 35 minutes or so. I just want to start off, have our panelists introduce themselves, tell us a little bit about your company, what you're working on, and how mobile has changed the way that you approach delivering your products.
Want me to start?
Sure.
Okay. I'm Diane. I'm from Waze. Waze is crowdsourced GPS and real-time traffic, and every bit of it is crowdsourced. We have 34 million drivers, and we're collecting the GPS traces and timestamps anonymously from all of them, and using that to create an entire, what we call social location stack. So the map, the traffic, the reports, the community. And that's about it.
I'm Shravan Goli. I'm CEO of Dictionary.com. We're an IAC company. Dictionary started out on the web. We were not a mobile-first company, but we have embraced mobile in a big way in the last 3 years. We're about 65 million downloads of our apps, huge mobile traffic. About 30% of our overall traffic comes from mobile now. And over the years, we have also figured out a number of different monetization models attached to mobile as a result. And love to share some details with you guys today. Before I hand off, I just want to know who has the Dictionary app here. All right. So I think I can be assured about another 500 downloads today. Thanks for the support.
I'm Goli Sheikholeslami, and I'm at Everyday Health, and we are a leading provider of health information and tools, both for consumers and medical professionals, and we run a portfolio of products and in the pure sort of health information space, medical news space, the parenting and pregnancy space, and then we have a portfolio of diet and fitness properties. And that's really where we've been spending most of our time from a mobile app perspective over the last 12 months is really on our subscription-based diet and weight loss businesses. But mobile is important to us because our consumers are increasingly using all of our products through their mobile devices, and so it is really critical that we offer them a good experience there.
Jeff Smith, co-founder, CEO of Smule, leader in mobile social music. We launched when Apple rolled out their first app store 4.5 years ago. We've brought Ocarina, turned your phone into a magic flute-like instrument. I Am T-Pain, so you could sing like your favorite hip-hop star in auto-tune. Glee karaoke, sing karaoke, magic piano. Auto rap, and most recently Strum. We have a portfolio of 12 products. We've built the network behind the products to connect our users and allow them to exchange music that they've created with one another and even create music together. We have approaching 100 million installs and about 15 million monthly active users of our products.
So obviously, one of the reasons we're here and one of the reasons all you guys are here is because mobile, this revolution in mobile has been one of the most important shifts in computing of our generation. But it's kind of been around for a few years now. Like mobile is not the brand new thing that it was back in 2007 with the launch of the iPhone to a lot of people, apps and the app economy and all of these things. And so I sort of wanted to start off by getting a sense of what you think has changed over the last couple of years. You've gone through a couple of development cycles. You've launched an app, you've gathered data on it, you've refined it, you've maybe perfected it. I don't know, you tell me. But like, what have you learned over the last couple of years about how your initial assumptions about what mobile required have maybe changed once you got out there in the marketplace of the product? And anybody who wants to jump in, go for it.
So, well, in terms of Waze, we're a product that couldn't have happened without mobile. The traditional method for gathering traffic information was about sensors in the road. So it was for cities who could afford to put that kind of infrastructure in very specific places. And it wasn't enough information to be able to be used to, say, route you around an incident. So what's changed for us in this period of time is, okay, there's Waze the app, but then Waze the data company. And the amount of information we can collect with 34 million people is phenomenal. And so we think about, a few years ago it was crowdsourcing. Now what we see is mass participation. And that difference means things like we can work with FEMA and the White House to help them figure out where to send fuel trucks in the middle of a crisis when there's no other mechanism for finding what fuel stations have power or not, or if the lines are 3 hours or 30 minutes. And so we're just getting into an era of what does it mean, mass participation? It might mean that as an individual, say our goal is to save people 5 minutes a day. Okay, that could be almost a week's vacation in a year for an individual, but for the collective, that could be hundreds of millions of hours over time. So we can begin to plan as cities, as countries, what do we do at that time, and how do we become efficient at scale? And that's something that we're really focused on and very excited about in terms of the major change.
So it sounds like the app, I don't necessarily want to say secondary, but it's almost, you have this whole new data problem alongside of your mobile strategy, right? That maybe, it's a good problem to have, but, it's one that nonetheless you have to tackle. Has that taken over in importance in your mind from your actual mobile strategy and learning how to process this data?
They absolutely have to go hand in hand, right? So we look at it as the app is kind of the interface for all of that, the interface for not the data problems, of which there are many in terms of scale, in terms of corruption, in terms of privacy, we're thinking through all of these, but for the data solution. And I don't even believe that we've begun to scratch the surface of where we're going to go with that. We're 34 million now. When we get to 100 million, it will look completely different. When we get to 500 million, it will look completely different. And these are problems that are going to point to solutions we didn't even know we were going to be able to have. So cool.
The two big changes we've seen over the past 4.5 years of mobile one acquisition, it's a more crowded market. Some of the techniques you'd use in the past to bring eyeballs into the App Store or onto your product have changed quite a bit. We've scaled over the past 12 months. We're seeing about 200,000 downloads a day now versus 50,000 downloads a day. But the rules have changed quite a bit, so that's probably a longer conversation on the panel. A second change is business model. 3 years ago, it was all paid products for us. 2 years ago, we started rolling out free-to-play with in-app payment, comprising a significant portion of our business model. And here we are today, where advertising is over 35% of our business model, including Flurry. And then in-app payment is around 15%, and then paid applications comprising the rest. So the business model has fluxed quite a bit, and then the rules of how we're acquiring customers has changed quite a bit as well.
Did you choose to change that model, or did you not really have a choice in going down that road?
It's a bit of both. We wanted to change the model because as our engagement grew in our products, we saw an opportunity to monetize that engagement through advertising. We also found an opportunity to expand the reach of our products in terms of access to premium content by allowing free-to-play users to earn content by watching video advertisements in Flurry and exchanging those points for content. And then that turned around, not only grew our business model, in some instances doubling the business model, but also, perhaps almost as important to us, is it allowed a much wider class of users to have access to that content, which then drove deeper engagement for the product. So typically we were seeing about 5% of our free-to-play products purchasing stuff with virtual currency or in-app payment. Now it's more like 25% of our users can get into the premium content through an advertising-based vehicle. So it ended up being a big deal for us across a variety of metrics.
It's interesting. I mean, we've seen a lot of similarities as well. When we our initial notion of going into mobile was to really enable this contextual discovery, everywhere. With that said, we were just an online utility for word discovery. And as we started going down this path, we also realized, to add to his points, mobile web is equally important. Our initial notion was mobile web, it's there, and it's sort of the WAP sites, the MDOT sites. But we've realized over the last 2 years, especially with the smartphone explosion, a lot of people are equally spending their time through the mobile web as much as through the apps. Our distribution of traffic is 60% apps and 40% mobile web. And then in terms of the business models as well, we started out with this complete idea of just as a free app. And then when we first put the ads almost like 3 years ago, there was a big, cry. And everybody complained like you're ruining the experience, all of a sudden you have ads. And so out of that, actually the reviewers actually said, I would rather pay for this app. Oh, if that's the case, then why not create a SKU which is just pure ad-free experience? That's how we started with that. And that started down, taking us down this path of the paid apps. Over time, we also realized the needs of the users have evolved. Just like, what they have seen, we started out as this core dictionary and thesaurus app, but then we started adding the voice-to-text enabled features and then example sentences, or we're now in the process of adding a sciences add-on or a medical add-on. and all of them are leading to more incremental in-app purchases. So thinking about a game, it's very natural, or a media app, it's very natural to think about there's virtual goods or there's transactional components built into that. We've actually figured out how to take a utility and a reference app and convert it into a transactional mechanism. So today, we see our paid, as a percentage of the downloads is anywhere from, 2 to 5%, depending on the platform. But revenue contribution is significantly higher in terms of the overall size of the pie. So yeah, it's exciting times.
And for us, I would say for Everyday Health, it was really over the last 3 years. We started building our first apps about 3.5 years ago, understanding what the right product was to have as an app, and our initial sort of portfolio of apps were really very content heavy. And I think what we've learned over the last 3 years is that what works best for us is really the more tools and utility-based apps. So whether it's our calorie counter or our pregnancy tracker or our baby tracker or our weight loss apps, that's where we see the very high levels of engagement. That's where we've been experimenting with in-app purchases. We have subscription models. So the business is really evolving in those apps that are more tool and utility based, and that sort of has been the big change for us.
But a bunch of different separate, like almost task specific apps as opposed to like one
exactly.
big app.
And also, again, we run a portfolio, so our we operate the what to expect business online, and so the pregnancy app is the what to expect pregnancy app, and our diet and weight loss businesses, we have our Jillian Michaels weight loss app and our South Beach Diet weight loss app, and our calorie counter is just our Everyday Health. So they're all different brands within the portfolio.
So one thing that we've heard a lot about mobile first for a number of years. I mean, the Wi-Fi password here is mobile first, and I think a lot of people have accepted that as truth. But there's been some interesting talk over the last couple of months about is this really the way that we want to think about our businesses? And I think when people talk about mobile first, they're talking about the app experience. They're not necessarily talking about the mobile web, as you alluded to. In 2013, has anything changed to the point where you might start thinking about the mobile web as a bigger part of your mobile strategy? Or is that just still one of those things that's going to be forever 2 years away, every 2 years?
Well, I would say it's a percentage of our overall web traffic, including mobile web, is a larger and larger percentage of our traffic, and so on some level, that's the consumers are taking us there, even if we may be lagging them at this point. But I think whether an idea or a product or a business makes sense on mobile or desktop, I think it's very much about what the user experience is, or what the value proposition for the consumer is. So if you if you want to read all the in-depth content about a certain condition, or if you're pregnant and you want to have the encyclopedic view on what you're going through, you might want to go to the desktop. But if you want to track all of your appointments and all your baby's key milestones, you might want to do that on the app. So I'm not sure it is one over the other. I think the two come together in many instances.
I mean, as being involved in the content business myself, I know there's a lot of talk about with publishers. Do you want to focus more on mobile web, because then you can present the responsive kind of design continuous experience to your users, and because I think in publishing we're seeing a little bit more of that, but obviously you guys run all different kinds of businesses. Right.
I mean, for us, like I said earlier, mobile web is a big component of our user base. We did not expect that to be the case when we started out. As it relates to 2013, mobile web is also going to take a different shape from our perspective. So far, we've looked at it as sort of one-size-fits-all experience as mobile web, and that meant it was applicable for all sorts of devices out there. In terms of what happened in the last 2 years with the smartphone penetration over 50%, the 4-inch screens are becoming more standardized. In fact, 5, and then now the phablets. A lot of these screen sizes have evolved.
You can't use that word. I really can't allow you to use that word.
So, with that said, what we're trying to do is shift our focus in terms of mobile web to these bigger devices or more the smarter devices, and say, should we create an experience that is a little bit more unique and more specialized and personalized for those devices versus sort of the feature phones, which are declining. So that's a step we're taking, as we are trying to figure out how we develop the next gen mobile web.
I think for us, we rely so much on the native capabilities that it would be a disservice to think about a purely mobile web product.
Could you do it at all? I mean,
we could do it poorly, and we could do it for 12 people, right? And so we never lead a platform. We follow the platform because, like I mentioned, scale and distribution is critical for us in order to get the data to provide the good value. But what we are doing is we're integrating mobile web on the back much more frequently for information that has to be pushed at a specific time, but it's a seamless experience for the user. You have the app, and then there are certain things that are just coming from the web that we can do cross-platform. And so we're weaving it in slowly to certain components of the application, but I don't even see in 2013 having a purely mobile web experience.
Yeah, we're not going to touch mobile web next year, the year after, probably ever. Gosh, we're up to 70 people now, and we always talk about maybe having one person fix our website, and we still haven't gotten around to that.
Oh, we're there. Yeah, we still have the worst website on the planet.
Yeah, so our website, who cares? But for us, it's all about a native experience and integrated into your actual life, being there with you. Like our Ocarina product, you got 30 frames a second of OpenGL running in parallel with 3 audio scripts and all of this network processing and then some of the gaming logic. We're not the friend of your battery, but there's no way we could run that in Flash or something that isn't native. But even if we could, we're just much more interested in redefining what these experiences mean, and to have something that's hybrid, that's trying to be part web and part mobile, we don't think would do justice to some of the unique experiences we're trying to create for these users of how they can create music on these devices. So no web for us.
all right.
I'll give you one example of where we are weaving it in. You just reminded me. Is that, for example, you as the Wazer are using the native application, but you want to go pick somebody up, and it's a social experience that doesn't require the full Waze experience, then we will push out a link that's mobile web based, for example, so the other person can see you coming. So it's about communication between the app and then the broader world.
Right. So it all obviously depends on the type of the application that you're trying to provide and the user problem you're trying to solve. I would definitely recommend that, if it's sort of a reference utility or, education or even health, you could obviously look at starting out with mobile web, because there's a larger device footprint that is available now to access mobile web in a much more sophisticated way, A. And then B, on the monetization side, I think mobile web is in fact ahead of Android, for example, as well as goes toe-to-toe with the iOS platform, right, in terms of the ad monetization. Thirdly, the brands, which we're all hoping to come in and start advertising on these apps on sort of the mobile experiences, they're still moving slow. However, there's one area that they're willing to move faster, which is mobile web, because they have the full width of being able to run the ad, track the ad, look at the performance, where is the user landing, so they can apply the traditional measurements of success on that front. So it really depends on what your app and what your situation is. I would definitely encourage you guys to have a very strong look at leveraging mobile web.
I guess I'd have a different experience on what you could do on advertising on mobile app versus web. I think web is pretty limited, in fact, not only from an analytic standpoint, but the UI, the experience. There's some amazing things we can do on these mobile devices now, and I think trying to, again, sit on both sides of the fence is potentially going to prevent you from really taking advantage of what's possible. And we've certainly seen that with a number of brands we're working with as well. I mean, they want innovative experiences that are only possible on some of these native devices.
We're seeing the same thing.
Let's open it up for questions. Take a couple questions now. There's mics somewhere in here, I'm told. So if anybody has a question.
While we're waiting for someone to ask a question, is there already somebody? Oh.
Hi, this question is for Jeff. Jeff, I know, hey, right here. I know that Smule has a social gaming experience in the works, and I want to know if you could touch more on that. I saw it somewhere on the website. I'm not sure where, but I don't know if you could speak to it.
So pending product release? Is that what you're asking about?
Yeah.
Is my marketing VP anywhere around? Would I get in trouble if I talked?
Nah, it's fine.
No one's tweeting or anything.
Nah, it's fine.
Yeah.
So we just launched Strum, which moved the needle for us across a couple of metrics. Strum basically combines music and audio and plus video into one platform, integrating our auto wrap and our Songify technology, so you can shoot a 15-second clip, push a button, and out comes a magical music video. And that's leveraging our whole back-end Smule Nation platform that we've built that allows people to follow, like, love, and get engaged with one another across the network. And so we're busy rolling out the next generation of that back-end network, and you'll see a product from us in the middle of the year that hopefully once again redefines what's possible on these devices, but probably can't say much more about it than that.
There was a question right here. Yeah.
Yep.
Question for Shravan. You indicated that mobile web was better than Android from an advertising perspective. Could you put a little bit more into that explanation?
Yeah, sure. So there are two levels in there. One is, I was talking about the brand advertisers. Where are they advertising today primarily? In the app space, they're looking at the mobile video advertising, and some of the iAds guys have been able to attract some of the premium brands, but they haven't gone in scale. So there's whatever inventory we get in the app space primarily comes through the mobile ad networks, in terms of the volume, right, the fill rates wise. And so what it does is it sort of commoditizes that inventory to a certain extent, and the pricing is low as a result, especially on Android. In terms of the mobile web, the ability for the advertisers, even including the networks, in fact, the ability to track the user, target the user, and look at the performance that they're getting against the campaign objectives is much higher. The analytics, end-to-end analytics, have not been very well developed because each app platform differs, right? So mobile web is through the browser, cookie-based targeting. You could do cookie-based targeting, so you at least have some sort of a profile type targeting mimicking the web, and you don't get that in sort of the apps. So what we're seeing is, in terms of Android app to mobile web, in terms of the eCPM, is roughly 3x on mobile web to Android, and it kind of varies. It could go from 2x to 4x. It depends on the sort of the month and the time, but definitely it's higher. And our ability to change and try out new ad formats on mobile web is faster compared to the app, because you got to wait for the app refresh cycle too. So when somebody comes in and says, I want to do a big custom campaign, how do you do that? In the case of an app versus the mobile web, it's a different game.
If I might express an opinion on that off the record, I would say that
Nobody's listening.
I know so what you're talking about is a transition from web to mobile, which, if you want to be safe, what we're talking about is banners. And so banners aren't going to get a big mobile CPM anyway.
Right.
So the trick in mobile, if you want to, you can make plenty of money in location advertising in mobile. Sure. The trick is what kind of experience is going to be beneficial for both the user that creates an interesting engagement, and it might be a different metric than what they've experienced for. So you might have to go through cycles of experimentation and find out exactly how you need to be tracking it. But anyone who wants to think about getting stuck in banners, whether it's mobile web or
I don't agree with that. I don't agree that.
So I don't agree either. I'm going to jump in as well.
Yeah. You can't simplify the ads to banner ads, right?
Yeah, the banner thing is not working very well at all on mobile. And so to compare eCPMs, mobile web to mobile, it's kind of who cares. Interstitial ads, they work pretty well, and we can price them at eCPMs, or we can give you CPAs or the rest. We can give you all of that data through Flurry or direct. I'll tell you what's really working well for us is video advertising. Right. And this is something that historically we didn't see working well on web. We didn't see it to be particularly effective. And I don't know why it's working well on mobile, but I can tell you for us, not only selling it, but buying the advertisements, it's been the most effective acquisition channel for us, aside from a lot of the things we're doing on Facebook, social, and word of mouth. And we could talk specifically about what it would cost to acquire users for a download or branding campaigns for the rest. But there's something about taking over the screen of a mobile device and giving them this immersive video experience, particularly for the high video quality, that's somehow, for some reason, different than what we were seeing on traditional web channels.
Right, and I don't think I started out saying video ads work well on mobile. So to be clear, the app has to be relevant for video advertising. You can't put video advertising in a dictionary.com app, for example. So it all depends on the app and the context and content, right? So it depends on that. So I'm speaking from the experience of our apps. Obviously, when you're talking about Waze, location advertising pays 2.5x compared to the standard advertising. So absolutely we should use location. In fact, we have a maps feature within our dictionary app that brings, if you pull up the app and you pull up the map feature, you'll see all the words that people are looking up around you. And we've been able to leverage sort of that location context to drive the eCPMs even within the apps. But I think the question is really depending on what you're trying to do will be different. Not every app is going to get location. So do you care to be an app or mobile web?
I don't think it's all about location. I also think it's about experience and just kind of the mind share you have with that user at that point in time. So anyway, we'll see how this shakes out. But at least I'll tell you from our experience this year, video ads working extremely well, both incentive-based video ads where people are earning points to trade for content, or we're showing them an interstitial at some point in our game.
So I would be remiss if I didn't jump in the fray here, but I would say for those of us who have built significant businesses, ad-supported businesses in the web space, it's not about banners. That's really that.
I like to be provocative on
yes,
and
this is great.
So, I would agree with Shravan that our experience actually is that the way that we can sell against mobile web at this point does yield us higher CPMs, and it is compared to the app. And I think it's just an evolving market, and we will figure out the app model as well. And so what we've been doing on the app side is a lot more in terms of paid subscriptions and video ads and different things that make sense for that medium. But we still have a thriving media-based ad business both on the website and on our mobile web products that are not going away.
We'll referee a further argument after this session is over. I wanted to get a little bit back just to the pure app discussion and talk a little bit about the problem that every single app developer talks to me about at some point or another, which is discoverability. This is the same problem we've been having for a long time. It's not like, it's been 5 years, and I've been hearing this for 5 years or 4.5 years. What has gotten better with respect to app discoverability? And what needs to change to really make it less of a problem for developers to get noticed in this sea of apps? And just jump in.
We've worked very hard to get, 2 of our apps are in the health and fitness space, or top 20 apps, and have consistently been top 20 apps. But I think earlier on in the morning, a lot of the panels were talking about the quality of the product. At the end of the day, I think that is the number one thing that is going to different or really make your product discoverable is the ratings really do matter. And so you have to build good products that get good ratings in the App Store and get downloaded, and then it sort of becomes this self-fulfilling cycle. But has it become better? I still think that as far as we know, that the rankings in the App Store are driven by the ratings and the downloads, and so those are the 2 things that drive.
Right, I agree. I don't think it's fundamentally changed that much, and the key things that you want to focus on: the App Store optimization, which is the ASO, that is sort of the SEO. A lot of one of the ways that people are now discovering is through real search. There's less of browse and more of search. So focusing on ASO, which means that making sure your app description is really good, you're getting the right screenshots and all of that stuff, keeping in pace with the iTunes UI change or Google Play UI change, and making sure you're addressing that. And then sort of this virtual cycle that happens. We pay tremendous attention to the ratings and reviews. Every single week, I'm out, on the stores. I'm reviewing the comments. If you have any 3-star or below, I'm worried. I'm looking at it and making sure that we're addressing it and sending it out to the product team and everybody else. So I think you need to be very obsessed about the ratings and reviews. Absolutely critical. And the other thing I think you want to start thinking about at least is how can you create some more sort of the viral components or the social components within the apps? And it's difficult. It's not easy for every single app to think about it that way. But if you have an app that is very successfully engaging the users, and people are rating it 4 stars, 5 stars, they should be willing to share this app. They should be, so make your users as ambassadors, if you will. And I think that's one of the things that we've done consistently. And the last but not least, think about grassroots PR. When we started going down this path very aggressively 3 years ago, Dictionary, obviously, Dictionary.com is a great brand online. We started out with that is our seed funding, if you will. We didn't have to go and buy downloads to start with. People, when you start typing in Dictionary, people will discover. Having said that, the whole idea of making sure you're in the top 10, top of these leaderboards and other charts, these reviewers are also paying attention to the outside media. What are the outside media talking about? So if you're using some unique elements, and this is where the app versus the web also plays an interesting game. If you're creating the app and you're leveraging some of the cool technology from the platforms, you stand a chance of being featured more often than not. With mobile web, you can obviously not leverage a lot of the technology components. So if you can do that and then apply a lot of grassroots PR, getting on TechCrunch, great, but you and I read that. Not everybody in the world reads it, right? So really, yeah. I mean, we focus on parenting blogs, we focus on education blogs, we focus on a lot of those, other medium, and spending time with them, talking to them about the app, getting them to write, and then ultimately we go to the list. Right?
That's really helpful. But what we found is that mobile is different than web. PR, certainly get a short-term pop. That's not going to sustain. Getting a brick from Apple or Google, sure, that's going to drive some down yields for a week. But what about the next 51 weeks during the year? Split testing every aspect, as you mentioned, of your landing page, your image. Yes, all of that matters. But where we found mobile to be quite different than web is that word of mouth reigns supreme. Every time we measure the channels, is it YouTube, is it Facebook, is it sharing, it's word of mouth. And you could actually measure word of mouth with different methodologies. We use the Net Promoter methodology to try to test how likely a user is. And what we found, that doesn't directly correlate with user reviews. User reviews and MP scores are not the same thing. And so I think part of our product development process is specifically to think about why is a user within 30 seconds actually going to talk to another user about this product and potentially demonstrate it. And we bake that into the design process of how we build a product, and then we test it. And I think if you could tune word of mouth, then you don't need Apple, the press helps, you can do the SEO, the rest. Of course, that's not so easy, it's not so straightforward. But again, unlike Facebook, where I could share something virtually, with mobile, I'm usually talking to you face to face and I'm showing you my phone. And this seems to be a significant distinction about how products are being spread across mobile.
This was the question I wanted to pose to the panel as well, because even as we grow, I'm constantly thinking every single day about user acquisition and obviously engagement as well, but what's going to move the needle? And being featured by Apple, being featured by Android, those things used to move the needle. And now at the scale we're talking about, they don't anymore. So I'll tell you 2 things that move the needle for us, and then I have a specific question for Jeff. One is, and they're okay, so one was a mistake, right? And so some of you guys might know that we're now used by 23 TV stations every morning across the country from an iPad. And the traffic reporters are giving traffic information from Waze because we're the only ones who can give real-time information about what's happening on those side streets. And they want to be able to show their viewers on TV. It creates this new kind of relationship with them. And that happened by mistake. And we didn't pay for it. That was, it all happened because there was a 10-mile stretch of the 405 in LA that was shut down, and the absolute only way to keep track of what was happening was through crowdsourcing. And so ABC7 came to us.
You launched by Carmageddon?
We were launched by Carmageddon, and I was a traffic reporter for 24 hours.
That's awesome.
And then at the end of Carmageddon, the traffic reporter didn't want to stop using Waze. So she wanted to keep doing it, and then she made other introductions. So it was absolutely a mistake. It was an opportunity that we just jumped on that came our way. So that was probably the number one in terms of our next generation growth. The second is when things that are completely out of your control, like when Tim Cook apologizes for Apple Maps and then recommends Waze. I mean, this is kind of thing you can't plan, you can't buy. So both, and being on the Today Show last year was incredible for us. We didn't plan any of those three things. And I wish we could. I wish it was brilliant strategy, but it's taking advantage
Cause
of
a traffic jam in LA. You could plan that.
Exactly. I wish that we could have planned that, but we're not yet. And so it's really taking advantage of luck, being in the right place at the right time, and then pursuing something. My question to Jeff is, you told me the other day, quickly, you told me the other day that you never launch an app that doesn't make it to the top 20 or something like that, right? Tell me your launch plan. Like, what is in every launch plan that you don't miss? Because I want to know.
We actually have a 17 kind of step playbook for launch. Word of mouth ends up becoming a significant component of that because of mobile. There are other aspects of it that go beyond the scope of this conversation, but happy to chat. And look, we're not the only ones that have figured out how to get 1 million downloads.
Share one tip that we don't know.
Okay, I'm going to come back to the earlier theme, video. So suppose word of mouth is big because you're trying to convey the physical experience of this application. The next best proxy for that online is video. And so for us, when we're launching a product, as important as the actual product we've built will be the YouTube asset, the video asset that we give to the press concurrent with the launch. And if we have a high MP score on our product, we probably have an high MP score on the video as well. But that ends up being a fairly significant channel for us, not only at launch, but if we're successful placing that video at launch, like with the Ocarina, we were all playing Stairway from Heaven on our Ocarinas, if you remember it. Then we're going to get page rank on Google. We're going to get a lot of traffic back in. That particular video is still seeing 10,000 views a day 4 years later. And that's still correlating to download traffic off of that video.
I think we got to cut it there. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.